computer. Okay. Admit all. You ready?
I'm ready.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the wonderful webinar with Evan Gow from StoryOrigin. Just doing some basic checks here. Can everybody hear me? Evan, you want to say something? Make sure everybody can hear you.
Sure. Here I am. I'm Evan. Thanks for having me
That
on.
was beautiful. That was beautiful. Well executed. Yeah, if you guys could drop us something in the chat just so we know that that's working and that you guys can hear us, that everything is all good. I see all good,
Awesome.
loud and clear. That's good. Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait just a second here. A few last minute people are still rolling in here.
I'm curious while we wait for people that for people to join. I'm curious if we have anyone on that has used Story Origin before. All right. I'm not seeing anyone. So that means we'll have a good conversation. We'll have we can cover all of the basics. That gives me a good understanding for like what sorts of things we oughta how in depth we ought to go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Just before we start, I just wanted to say that, I know Story Origin and what you do, Evan, is really built a lot around email marketing.
mhm.
12 years ago, I was a very prolific and successful blogger. And I actually wrote a book in 2014 called Kill Your Blog, basically describing how I stopped blogging, put all my emphasis on getting email subscribers and publishing books rather than blog posts. And yeah, sorry, I had to admit a couple more people there. Um, But yeah, I understand the strategy and the tactics really well. I've advocated for email marketing for authors since forever. While I'm not an active author anymore, other than my feeble attempts to sell my children's books that I've been writing lately, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm excited for you to talk about newsletter swaps as well. Here at 100 Covers, all of our marketing is basically doing something similar to that effect, finding where our ideal customers lurk and finding, how to tap into those by, establishing relationships with other people in our niche and seeing authors do that really powerful. Obviously, the reviews are extremely powerful. And, I'm all about getting reviews and having a good launch. And you need to have all those things, the email marketing, the relationship building, the launch, the newsletter swaps, all these things to me are not just marketing tactics for authors, but they are the most important marketing tactics for authors. And I'm a minimalist. I like to see people focusing on one thing that works and going in hard and doing it rather than spreading themselves out amongst 30 different marketing tactics. Like I said, at 100 Covers, we use one marketing tactic. That's all we've used. We don't use any other ones. We're very, very streamlined in that sense. If you can find what works and just do that and stay focused on it, it simplifies everything. And yeah, I know that you play a huge role for authors and helping them simplify their business so they can focus on their writing and streamline their marketing and focus only on what works. And yeah, so that's kind of an introduction to what I believe is really important for email, for marketing for authors. And I know that that's what you're focused on, and that gives me a lot of faith that you're a really good go-to guy. And I'm eager to hear, what you have to share today. On that line of thinking, is email marketing, still like the number one most important thing for authors to do to build an audience, to build a list, to be successful? And what's working these days? Has it changed? What kind of light can you shed on that topic?
Yeah, so just like to take a step back and look at like the landscape over the past decade, right? Um, it used to be that like social media would work pretty well, right? You'd post things and people would see things. And nowadays everything is algorithmically driven where you post stuff to social media and 99% of the people who are ostensibly following you to see what you post don't actually ever see it because it's all algorithmically driven. Whereas like email, this archaic thing, right, in terms of technology and computers at this point, having been around for substantially longer than anything else, is still like this. It still gives you the best way to actually have a direct touch point with your audience. So I believe that having an email list and maintaining an email list and having that direct touch point with your audience, it's really newsletters are the only thing that really give you that in a way that you own and you control that um has like staying power, right? So if you look at, the other issues with, doing things around like social media, for example, you don't actually own your audience. If Facebook decides to like suspend your account for some reason or whatever happens on, you know, Instagram or other social media platforms, like you can get your account like just pulled from you, and then you're just out of luck, right? With a mailing list, you own that list of email addresses, right? And so if for whatever reason, let's say, MailChimp or MailerLite goes out of business, you can always just keep your list of email addresses and upload that to a different newsletter sending service, right? So MailChimp, MailerLite, ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, SendFox, Author Email. There's tons of different email service providers. And these are platforms that you just use to design and send your newsletters, is essentially what those are, right? And you just upload your list of email addresses, your readers that have signed up to your email list, and then you can send your newsletters out. And you own that list, unlike every other method. And going back to your point about blogging, um, killing your blog, like I do think that unless you have some very specific need like SEO, which is dying at this point because of the AI generated responses. Um, blogging used to be pretty valuable for certain subgenres, right? Particularly in nonfiction. Um, Blogging might be a way that you could build an audience by ranking well for search terms on Google. That doesn't really work anymore now too, because so many of those responses are just AI generated and people aren't clicking links or going to the blog posts to begin with, right? But even before then, um, if you were a fiction author and you were writing blog posts about like, here's what I'm writing today, or here's what I'm working on, or here's some updates, those things don't, when you're posting to just a blog, you're really sort of posting almost to a void, right? Where you're hoping that someone reads it, but you don't really have much insight into that necessarily, right? And it's hard to actually build interactions and build real relationships with people. Versus when you've got a mailing list, you can actually build real individual relationships with your audience members, and your audience are, those people who are on your mailing list, they'll become your reviewers, they'll become beta readers for you. They might join your street team and say, hey, so and so just published a new book, and they'll post about it on their social media for you, right? So it's still, the one marketing channel that I recommend all authors really have and maintain. Um,
Can I ask you a
and
question real
yeah,
quick, Evan?
go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I think is most powerful about an email list is that, you can drive traffic somewhere all at once, and, presumably a book launch, right? And all those people you're driving to the site, they're already fans of yours. And so your conversion rate is going to be astronomical when they arrive on the site. If you send 1,000 people over to Amazon to buy your book and you've already kind of pre-sold the book in the email, you might see 30, 40% conversion rate when they land over on Amazon. that has to have a really big impact on the algorithm, right?
I mean, yeah. So I can't give you like specific conversion numbers for like when you send people from your newsletter to your product page on Amazon, what that conversion rate is going to be. It's going to be different for every author, right? And it depends on like how frequently you sort of clean your list from people that maybe haven't been opening your emails lately and stuff like that, right? But that being said, yeah, the conversion rate is going to be generally substantially higher for people that are on your mailing list. It's usually substantially cheaper too, right? On a like cost per click basis when you're comparing it to running ads against like Facebook or Amazon, etc., because these are people who already know you and are ostensibly fans of yours. So you will get much more bang for your buck as well. Um,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know. Back in the day when I had the most successful book that I'd written, not only did it do really well when I launched it because I already had this big audience that I built before launching it, and I had the email and I was able to send them all over at the same time. I was able to pulse them again by running a sale later on in the month, which really shot me up to the bestseller ranks right around Christmas time, which was really cool. And I was like top 100 in the Kindle store for a brief moment. But it was the best moment to be top 100 in the Kindle store. But even more important than that, I think, is having this congregation, this fan base, that you can control, when you send communications to those people and what those communications are. Um, I had huge, amounts of really, really great reviews,
Yeah.
right? And so I was like, they used to do like a highest rated. I don't know if they still do it on Amazon or if anybody pays attention anymore, but my book was one of the highest rated on Amazon for a brief time. And now the book averages like 3.3, right? The book sucks, but my audience was able to convince, the masses, at least for a time, that this was a really great book and convince the algorithm that everybody wanted this book. And to me, that was absolute proof positive that an email list was the absolute, secret weapon to having a successful author career. But yeah, I'm sure your experiences with authors and the whole reason you created Story Origin the way that you did, focus so much on email marketing. I'm
Yeah.
sure you understand that very well. But I
Yeah,
just wanted
one
to throw that
100%.
in.
Yeah. In I mean, just having a newsletter and being able to have the direct touch point with your audience allows you to do a lot of things that you just wouldn't be able to do otherwise. For example, like you were saying, if you're trying to drive reviews, you might release a book and then leave it let it be free for the first 5 days or something. And send an email out to your audience on your mailing list and say, hey, my book is going to be free if you grab it within the next 5 days. Um, I'd love a review on it, right? Um, and they go and they buy it at a $0 price from Amazon in those first 5 days. And then they can leave a review on it, and they're more inclined to do so because like they got to be a part of this special deal. You're letting your audience know ahead of time about it, etc. Which like if you don't have a mailing list and you don't really have a way to reach your audience directly, doing stuff like that can be tricky. Now, whether or not you want to do something like that to begin with, where you're letting your entire audience know that a book is going to be free for a limited amount of time to drive reviews, like that strategy is, whether or not you want to use it, totally up to you. You might be focused on trying to drive more sales, right? And so that new release for you, you might be wanting to generate, sales from that. And so you can do that. You could also do that in tandem with, for example, if people have signed up to your mailing list and you're releasing, let's say, book three in a series or book four in a series, you can say to readers that maybe who haven't gotten started on reading book one yet, you can say to them, hey, I'm making book one free for the next 5 days. If you want to recommend it to any of your friends, in tandem with the release of my new book, book three. So go tell your friends they can get started on book one, and like book three is released now. And so you might do stuff like that, which like really is not you can't really do that kind of thing when you're talking about like running Facebook ads or Amazon ads. And it generally like social media algorithms will not share those kinds of posts where you're talking about something that is for sale because the algorithms don't like that, right? So, yeah, it's extremely valuable to have a mailing list for sure, for lots of
Yeah.
different reasons.
Yeah, one more reason that I'll throw in as well is that when I was active as an author, I was in the alternative health realm, specializing kind of in eating disorders, and I wasn't going to convince somebody right there on the spot of, you should eat more, you should do this. That was a really hard way to convince people. But I had an email autoresponder sequence that was like 20 different segments long. So people would subscribe to the email list, and then I would get to kind of lay the ideas brick by brick to help them go from kind of being shocked by what I was telling them to understanding the logic behind it. And that was very powerful and sort of getting them to consume enough of my ideas to be on board with them and become like a major fan, ready and eager to read the books that I wrote or, leave a positive review of my book when
Yeah.
it came out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's
Yeah.
another really great positive, having an email list. Um,
And I like someone commented when I was mentioning like putting your book for free. Someone had commented at the same time saying, "I just had an author send me an email exactly like that, and I forwarded it to my sister." So there you go. Get your readers to do your marketing for you and start to build like that virality too.
yeah, yeah, and that was kind of my free giveaway as well. I
Mm.
kind of build it as being a course. Um, and then you get it for free and then it's delivered in your inbox. That also trains people to pay attention to your emails, open your emails, read your emails, interact with your emails. It takes a while to get people to do that, and that also gets them out of your junk folder, your and your promotions folder. Somebody, Emily, asked about that.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a concern, but there's definitely ways to keep that from happening. And at the end of the day, all that really matters is that you're getting good open rates and good click-through rates and all the kind of metrics that you want to see with your email list. Everybody's not going to see your emails, but it's all about percentages.
It's all about percentages for sure. And that it goes in regards to as well, because that question from Emily said, is email really helpful if a large list triggers it sending to spam or to a junk folder? So just to step back, like having a large email list does not mean that your email will automatically go to a spam or a junk folder. It goes back to percentages, right? You could have an email list with 50 people on it, right? And if 1% of those people mark your email as spam, then it's going to end up in a junk folder, right? It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter even if the email list is super small. Your emails can go to the spam folder if you are sending if a high percentage of that list is marking you as spam, right? So when you have a large email list, right, the same thing plays out, right? It's like as long as you're like as long as a very, very, very small percentage of people are marking your emails as spam, then you don't have to worry about it. And most people don't mark your emails as spam, right? Like the unless you're in, I'll get into like best practices as well around what I actually recommend talking about in your newsletter as well, because that will drive like how many people will mark your emails as spam, right? Is like it really matters what the content is in the newsletter. Um, so for sure, and
Um,
we can get into all that as well.
yeah, just real quick, Angelo asked, any ideas for how to build an email list from zero? What would you say maybe are the top three tactics that you think are practical, easy to implement, effective?
Yeah. So, uh, when you're starting an email list, like the first thing you have to ask yourself is like, why would anyone want to sign up to my mailing list in the first place, right? It's this thing where it's like, why would someone want to opt into receiving marketing emails from me? And so you have to think about what that's going to be. And so for most authors, the answer is creating what's usually called a reader magnet, right? So a reader magnet for fiction authors usually tends to be like a 10 to 20,000 word prequel short story to your book or your series, okay? For nonfiction authors, a reader magnet might be something like a companion guide to your book, or maybe some worksheets or activity sheets that go along with whatever your book is about. You can come up with any number of ideas, but usually it's some form of an ebook, essentially, regardless of whether or not you're a fiction or nonfiction author. Usually that's how you'll package it. So I usually and it doesn't have to be. I'll take a step back and say, don't let my recommendations become roadblocks, right? So while I recommend like a fiction author write a 10 to 20,000 word short story prequel to your book or your series, like that's not meant to be a roadblock. The best time to start building your mailing list is right now. And if right now you don't have that, then find what you do have. Maybe you have some short stories laying around that you've never published. Put those together into an anthology or something, and use that as your reader magnet. Maybe you've only written one book and you don't have any short stories at all either. Just take the first three chapters out of your book and create like a sample slash preview version of that book and give away those first three chapters for free when someone signs up to your mailing list. So whatever you've got that you can create as your reader magnet. It's better to get started today rather than to wait, 3 months, because first you have to write a story, then you're going to edit it, then you're going to polish it, create a book cover, all that stuff. Um, uh, Start with what you have today. If you can get started sooner that way. So that's why someone would sign up to your mailing list. Now, the places that you would then collect traffic, right? So you put up a landing page that has your landing page that says, hey, if you sign up to my mailing list, I'll deliver this free ebook to you. So you can create one of those landing pages on StoryOrigin. You can also, build that kind of functionality into your own website and do that lots of different ways. StoryOrigin makes that process super easy and seamless, and provides like customer support for to readers that if they have any trouble getting the download onto whatever their preferred reading device is, blah, 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 blah. But so you put that landing page up, right? And now you've got a link to a landing page where you can collect signups to your mailing list, and you deliver that free ebook to your readers. Now, there's a few different places I would recommend putting that link to that landing page. So one, put it in the front matter and the back matter of your books, right? So if someone reads book one in my series and at the back of the book it says, hey, do you want to get the prequel to this for free? Go here, and then takes them to that landing page where they can sign up to your mailing list and get that prequel. And those are going to be some of your best subscribers, right? Because they've already bought book one of your series. They've already read it. They love the characters and the universe so much that they want to go and sign up to your mailing list so that they can get the prequel. Those are going to be your absolutely best subscribers. The second thing is you can, of course, put it in the links to your social media or on your website as well. And these are just other places where readers might discover you and then say, oh, yeah, I want to get that prequel. They might not have read any of your books before, right? And so they'll sign up to your mailing list to get that reader magnet. And then third is doing cross promotions with other authors, right? So a cross promotion is where I'll promote some of your books or one of your books if you promote one of my books, and then we can all sort of grow our mailing list together. And cross promotions are growing pretty quickly because they're free, easy, and targeted, right? So they're free, right? Like you and I, we don't have to pay each other to promote our books, right? Like when I want to promote my books via like Amazon ads or Facebook ads, I'm obviously paying for those. But if I just make an agreement with you that we're gonna promote each other's books, we don't have to pay each other. They're generally pretty easy to set up. You don't need to figure out any sort of ads dashboard, targeting, bidding strategies, all of that stuff that comes with running ads. When you're doing a cross promotion, you're saying, "Hey, I'll agree to promote your book in my newsletter." It's just a matter of like when you're designing your newsletter, you just put that person's book cover in your newsletter and then put the link to their book in your newsletter, right? There's no like strategies of like bidding and targeting and all this stuff that you need to worry about when it comes to advertising. It's a fairly easy process. Um, and
Yeah,
then it's yeah,
I'm a huge advocate for, collaborating or cooperating with other people who have basically a big group of what would be your ideal readers. Um,
right.
I used to be kind of an email marketing guru. I taught, internet business courses on the subject, and, it was always, advocating this idea of, building some kind of event and having other people, bringing other people together to all promote something. And so,
Yeah.
just as an example, we brought a bunch of people together in the paleo community back when that was really popular, and to promote a book sale. So we got like top 15, big wigs in the paleo movement, and they were driving traffic to an opt-in page on our site, leading up to a one-day only sale of all their books. And we got 70,000 email subscribers that week. So, I mean, and we had no following in that space whatsoever leading up to that. So, I think for people just starting out, it's extremely powerful. Obviously, to do some kind of newsletter swap, you need a newsletter, you need an email list, you need some people on that list to get the interest of other people who might want to, collaborate with you. But yeah, to me, that's like, jet fuel for taking your email list to the next level, connecting with readers much faster. They did all the work. They spent years building an email list, and you can tap into that email list overnight without having to do all that hard work that they did. And vice versa, they get to tap into yours as well, and everybody wins. And I find, that really good cooperative, collaborative environment to be, it flourishes in this industry.
Yeah.
And everybody's eager to do those kinds of things, and they're growing. There's more and more creative collaborations going on like that. But this kind of newsletter swap idea, like you're talking about, is very, very powerful.
And I will say the other benefit of cross promotions as well is something that you sort of touched on, which is that they're targeted as well, right? You're finding someone with an audience that is similar to the audience is that similar to the audience that you want to target, right? When you're running Facebook ads or Amazon ads or whatever, like you can a lot of times you're probably going to be advertising to people who don't care about what it is that you're trying to sell, right? They don't care about your genre or your particular niche that you're in, right? Because the algorithms like they're not perfect at figuring that out, right? But when you're doing a cross promotion, let's say I'm a cozy romance author, right? If I do a cross promotion with another cozy romance author, I'm can be relatively confident that their audience is going to be the type of readers that like my books as well, right? Because you can do lots of things where you're putting a lot of effort in to advertise your books, and it's just being seen by the completely wrong crowd. When you do cross promotions with other people that have the right target audience, then you don't have to worry about that nearly as much. And the
And
other thing I will add on is I will push back a little bit on the idea that you need to have people on your mailing list before you start doing cross promotions, right? So a lot of authors on StoryOrigin got their start when they had literally zero people on their mailing list. Now, you do need to have a mailing list. You do need to be planning to send out newsletters, right? So you might have literally one person on your mailing list, and that is just like your own email address that you added on there to test things out and send yourself a newsletter and make sure it's working properly. But that's totally fine, right? So like I can arrange a newsletter swap with another author even if my only email, even only if I have one subscriber on my mailing list. Um, um, and we can get in the nitty gritty of how exactly that works. But a lot of other authors will are willing to cross promote with authors that have like very few subscribers, because a lot of authors on StoryOrigin did start with 0 subscribers, and they know exactly what it's like to be in your shoes, and they are usually willing to then lend a hand up to someone else who is coming behind them because they had someone who helped them when they were just starting out, right? And so it's very much a sort of a pay it forward mentality, and the community is really great around that stuff. And it's not just specific to StoryOrigin too. Like I think that mentality is fairly common just in the publishing world and in the indie author world.
Yeah, but at Story Origin, you've kind of taken it a step further by, everybody comes in with the idea of, ooh, I want to do a lot of newsletter swaps and, these kind of collaborative things together, cross promotions. Everybody in that little community is kind of on the same, totally on board with that idea and eager
Yep.
to do as much of that as possible, right? So you've kind of already have a vetted group of people who are eager to do, these cross promotions, right?
Yeah, and it used to be before StoryOrigin, before I built in like the newsletter swap feature on StoryOrigin, most of that was happening in like Facebook groups, and authors were using Google Forms and like using Bitly for like tracking how many clicks a thing got and stuff like this. And then when I built out the newsletter swap feature on StoryOrigin, I essentially sort of just formalized that process that authors were already doing in Facebook groups and stuff like that. But it just was substantially easier. I had authors who I've talked to who were like, yeah, I ran newsletter swaps before StoryOrigin existed. They were super helpful, but honestly, it just took too much time to find and arrange newsletter swaps with other authors that I just stopped doing them. And then they got on StoryOrigin and they're like, oh, this takes me 5 minutes. I can do the exact same thing that was taking me hours before, and I can do it in 5 minutes now. This is fantastic. Because they like we've been talking about, is a super valuable channel for them. But it was just taking too much of their time away from writing. But yeah, StoryOrigin sort of formalized that process and made it super easy.
Yeah. Speaking of taking too much time to away from your writing, I met a guy at the grocery store yesterday selling his books, a local author, and he goes around to all the grocery stores and spends all day. He says he sells a couple $100 of books every day, but to make $1,000 a week, he's got to be out there at a grocery store 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Doesn't leave much time for his writing. And he kind of was saying like, yeah, and then, a couple days a week, I'll do a little writing. Interesting. I do have a clarification question. With these cross promotions that you're advocating at Story Origin and that people are doing, are they are they marketing another person's book and sending a link, go check out their book? Or are they saying, go get this, free prequel, or are they sending people to your email list when they do a cross promotion, or are they sending people directly to your book listing, or both?
So let's get in the nitty-gritty. So there are two types of cross promotions when we're talking about cross promotions. There are two types on StoryOrigin. One is a newsletter swap, which is sort of what we've been dancing around this whole time, right? Which is I'll promote one of your books in one of my upcoming newsletters if you promote one of my books in one of your upcoming newsletters, right? So I've got a newsletter in 2 days. I'm going to drop the link to your book in my newsletter to share with my audience. In 5 days, you're sending a newsletter, you'll drop the link to my book in your newsletter and you're going to promote that to your audience. Um, those newsletter swaps, they can be to direct readers to reader magnets, or they could be to direct readers to your universal book links. So a universal book link is basically a way to send reader traffic to your product pages on the various retailers where you have your book available. So universal book link. So even if you're only selling a book on Amazon, Amazon has all these different marketplaces, right? In the US, a reader needs to go to Amazon.com. In the UK, a reader needs to go to Amazon.co.uk. In Australia, they need to go to .com.au, etc. Right? So there's all these different Amazon domains that they have for each country. And so when a reader clicks on your universal book link on StoryOrigin and they want to view your book on Amazon, StoryOrigin will automatically take them to the correct Amazon storefront for that reader's country, right? So if you are in the US and your list is primarily, US readers, but you've got a few people from the UK or Australia or Canada or South Africa or something like that that are on your mailing list as well. If you send out that universal book link, you don't have to worry about, alienating some percentage of your audience because they're ending up on the Amazon.com store and they're like, I can't buy books from there. So those newsletter swaps, again, they can be to promote your reader magnets. Those are your free ebooks that you use to collect signups for your mailing list. They can be for universal book links. Those are directing readers to the retailers where your books are available to purchase. They can be for review copies. So if you're trying to build a review team and you're looking to collect people for your review team, they can be for your direct sale ebook. So if you're wanting to sell books directly to readers, StoryOrigin integrates with a payment processor where essentially those funds are going straight to you, and then StoryOrigin just handles the file delivery aspect of it. Yeah, you can arrange those newsletter swaps for anything, right? So I could be promoting one of your universal book links. You could be promoting one of my reader magnets. And we can specify all that stuff when I send a newsletter swap request to you. I can specify exactly who would be promoting what. And if we want to at some point, I'd be also happy to do a screen share of how that works exactly too. The other type of a cross promotion, right? So first is newsletter swap. That's a one-to-one cross promotion. The second type of cross promotion is a group promo. And so that is where you, me, and let's say 20 other authors in our genre will all list our books on a single landing page, and then we all drive our traffic to that one landing page. And so I'm not promoting any individual author in my newsletter for that group promo. Rather, what I'll generally do is I'll take the banner image, that image that appears at the top of the landing page. I'll put that banner image into my newsletter, and I'll say, hey, you can go and grab, a bunch of free books or a bunch of discounted books, or go and get free review copies, what have you. I'll put that banner image into my newsletter and link that to that landing page. And then when they click on that banner image, they'll see all of the books that are a part of it. And so I'm promoting a bunch of other authors at the same time. So those are the two types of cross promotions.
Yeah, that one is really powerful. That's what we used when I was talking about, this big event we did in Paleo. We displayed all the books on the website. They were all marked at 99 cents, so they're all on sale. There was a countdown timer. You could see, how long the sale was going on. And this page was just inundated with traffic because 15 different people with a big newsletter were driving traffic over there, and literally all 15 of the books made it into the top 100, and one of the books was number one. So there was a day where all the books in our event were just absolutely destroying Amazon. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And that's how powerful they can be. Now, not everybody's got, this massive list like people in the paleo community during the peak of paleo.
right.
But the concept is still the same, and super powerful idea, I think, to put together events where multiple authors are participating in some kind of sale or, some kind of event like that.
Yep, yep, yep. So that's exactly, you can arrange those on StoryOrigin. It's called a group promo, like I said earlier, and they're very easy to arrange as well. Or you can just join one of the existing ones that another author has set up, and you can just apply. You just request, I want to have my book in this group promo, and then the organizer of the group promo can just choose to accept or decline the books that are being requested to be added.
That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
that gets me really excited because to be able to join, other ones that are already, in the process of coming to life, to be able to find those, join those, to be able to create your own and already have a group of people who are interested in doing group promos.
Yeah.
To me, that's really beautiful, and yeah, that's extremely powerful. But yeah, I like that StoryOrigin does that. That's awesome because
Yeah.
doing it independently and setting up the way we did was just brutal. I mean,
Right.
so many emails, so much like hand holding. Please, this is how it works. Having to explain it to every single person when
hmm
we invited them. having, so many people decline. We probably invited 60 people to get those 15. Um, all that stuff sounds like it's all taken care of in Story Origin and it's made super simple.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. I didn't know much about, Story Origin, and that one thing really gets me. Like I'm on board now. That is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And those those group promos, they can be, so you have different group promo types, right? So there are giveaway group promos, and all of the books listed in a giveaway type group promo are reader magnets, right? So everyone in this group promo, we're all trying to build our mailing list. So every book listed on that landing page is going to be a reader magnet. Then you can also set up sale type group promos where, like you guys did, you can say everyone in the group promo, we're all going to discount our books to 99 cents for this, this period of time, and we're all going to promote this landing page together. And so, yeah, you can set up, and so those group promos run on universal book links, right, where you're directing readers to where your book is available for retailers at various retailers, and then you can set up group promos as well for finding reviewers or doing direct sales or directing traffic just to Amazon if your books are in Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, there's various types of group promos, and you can join whichever ones you want to based on whatever your goals are, right? So are you trying to build your mailing list right now? Okay, great. Join a giveaway type group promo, and then when you're arranging newsletter swaps, request that the other authors be promoting your reader magnets. Are you trying to increase your sales? Join sale type group promos and then arrange newsletter swaps to have other authors promote your universal book links. Are you trying to get reviews? Same thing, join reviews type group promos and then have other authors promote your review copies via newsletter swaps.
Yeah. So for somebody who's not maybe very marketing savvy, not very tech savvy, doesn't want to spend their time, cold contacting a bunch of other authors, and all that kind of stuff, Story Origin sounds like a good place to just live. See what's going on, join promos, create promos, all that kind of stuff, and put your marketing focus on that, rather than kind of spreading out. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. StoryOrigin is sort of a one-stop shop for a lot of things that authors used to do all this stuff very manually. Like you were saying, you used to have to build that sort of that group promo landing page yourself and then reach out to a bunch of authors and do a bunch of stuff over email. And StoryOrigin sort of just has formalized and automated a lot of that process.
Are people able to communicate directly with other authors that are on the platform, like send a message, a DM to such and such author of Cozy Mysteries and kind of introduce yourself? Is that a thing over there? Or is that not part of the platform?
There's no in-app messaging system because I really didn't want to add another sort of messaging system that people would have to check on when we're already inundated with so many very like messaging systems from so many other platforms.
Yeah.
So the way StoryOrigin works is if I join a group promo, um, if I request to join a group promo, then that group promo organizer can then get access to my email and they can send me an email if they need to. If I request a newsletter swap with another author, that swap partner that I just requested a swap with, they would be able to get access to my email. So they would be able to send me an email if they need to for whatever reason. So you can't just like DM anyone, but
Yeah.
you can join, you can request group promos and you can request newsletter swaps with anyone or like join whichever ones you want to join. And then the organizers or swap partners can get access to your email if they need it for whatever reason. But most authors don't need to don't need to email each other for the most part, right? Because like the point of formalizing all of the processes is that like you don't have to do a bunch of stuff via email or via messaging, so you can just like so you can cut out all of that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the ability to try to build relationships, do
Absolutely,
something a little bit more intimate than just join a group. So,
absolutely.
yeah, I would definitely recommend to everybody to try to reach out and say hi, get on an emailing basis at the very least with some of these people you're wanting to collaborate with. they're extremely powerful. I had somebody reach out to me in 2014, and here 12 years later, that person is our biggest affiliate. He wanted feedback on his logo, and for this new thing he was starting. And 12 years later, he's our biggest advocate, and he sends us thousands and thousands of clicks every year, over to 100 covers, and it's turned into a really good friend. But if he didn't reach out and contact me, I think that was a DM on Facebook or something back in the day when I was active over there. That's how these little relationships sprout
Yeah.
and blossom, and you never know what they're going to turn into. Like I said, this person hadn't even launched a site yet. They just want a little feedback on their logo, and now they're one of the biggest people in the industry, and like I said, a huge affiliate for us. So
Right. And if you're arranging newsletter swaps with other authors that are in your particular genre, and you're doing a good job of promoting their books, they're doing a good job of promoting your books, that also establishes a lot of trust as well, that maybe they also become like maybe you guys actually become like beta readers for each other or something like that too, where it's like, oh yeah, I'll beta read your next book. Will you beta read my next book? And or potentially like critique partners, or maybe they become your accountability partners, where it's like, hey, my goal is to write this many words every week. What's your goal? And you guys can sort of develop a relationship where you guys are keeping each other accountable and trying to hit your goals and all that stuff. And yeah, uh, those relationships can be so beneficial for so many different reasons.
definitely. It can work really well in nonfiction as well. You might have a new product that you come out with, an e-course or some kind of program, or maybe, who knows what, a supplement or a device, or who knows what kind of stuff that you might be doing in the nonfiction realm is vast. Um, but if you've already built these relationships with 20 or 30 different people, they'll be there to help you launch that most likely. And I've done that again and again and again. I've done so many different things, and I already had, my group of people in the industry to help support me launching whatever new endeavor that I've done. So yeah, that's really powerful as well. But yeah, building these relationships and just starting to get to know the people in your niche and genre, them getting to know you, helping each other grow, super powerful. So
Yeah, for sure. And if you're just getting started with building a mailing list, group promos in particular can be a great place to get started because, um, a lot of times it's easier to get into a group promo when you've got zero people on your mailing list, or I guess at least like a lot of authors feel more comfortable doing that sort of thing when they've got zero people on their mailing list rather than requesting newsletter swaps with directly with other authors. And then the other thing is if you've got zero people on your mailing list as well, you can always organize your own group promo and put your own books in it, because you, of course, will accept your own books to your own group promo. And arranging one on StoryOrigin doesn't take really more than filling out a form, which takes maybe all of about 5 minutes, and creating a nice little banner image for it, which is usually a relatively simple process as well. Um, and so that's another great place to get started if you're just starting out.
any other really cool features of Story Origin that we should know about? Other than that, is that seems like kind of the main bread and butter of what's so special about it. But is there anything else that you think is, a real kind of mover and shaker of real results?
So a lot of authors will come to Store Origin because they heard from another author, hey, you're looking to build your mailing list, like you should go join Store Origin, join some group promos, like put up your reader magnet, stuff like that. And then as they get into Store Origin, they start using some other features. There are a lot on Store Origin that authors can take advantage of. So some really cool ones. One of my favorite ones to build was the beta copies feature. So if you've ever like sent out a docx file or a Google Doc out to your beta readers and said, "Hey, can you give me some feedback on this?" And those readers came back to you and they were like, "It was great. I loved it." You are left with like, "Okay." And I need more feedback than that. So the way the beta copies feature works on StoryOrigin is readers actually have to leave feedback on each chapter in order to unlock the next chapter. And so you can just get
Huh.
much more
Wow.
feedback and much more fine-grained feedback. You can provide them critique guidance, like you can say, "Hey, I'm looking for feedback on like were there any scenes you thought were boring? Did you believe like the relationship building was believable? Like, did you find any plot holes, stuff like that, where you can get where you can prompt them to give you more particular feedback." But yeah, a lot of authors that have used that beta copies feature absolutely love it. Because it's just not really feasible any other way, right? Before Story Origin, a lot of authors, what they would do is like they would break their like Word doc up into like 5 chapters, and they'd email someone like, "Here's the first 5 chapters. Fill out this Google form," and then when you fill out the Google form, I'll send you the next 5 chapters, and it's just like a really time-intensive process. And so Story Origin, again, that's another thing where like basically I've just like formalized and automated a lot of these processes, which authors were just doing manually before. Um, and so, yeah, Storage sort of made that process really easy for authors. Um,
That's cool. I
yeah,
like that. Yeah, I went to school for writing, like I have an actual degree. And a lot of our classes were that, we would read something that we wrote out loud, and then the rest of the class, one by one, would go through and kind of, give us what they thought were strengths and weaknesses at various points. And we got really great feedback that way. And there's no way I would have, become the amazing, talented writer I am today now. But it helped me become a much better writer for sure, going through that process. And that sounds really interesting, actually. That's a really good idea. I like that.
yeah. And then you can build your author website with StoryOrigin as well. So it's, a fairly like there's really sort of only one template. You choose a brand color and the StoryOrigin just lays it all out automatically for you. It takes all of about 5 minutes to build your author website with StoryOrigin. Which if you like, I mean, I've heard from so many authors before that they, sink weeks and weeks, sometimes months of time into like building their author website, and then like it just becomes this thing where like they become afraid to ever touch it again because they only
I
release a
don't know.
book every 6 months or every 12 months or whatever, and then like I don't remember how to do any of this. And like and then it just becomes unmaintained, and then it's like just this thing that's sort of hanging over their heads. The Story Origin website builders is very simple. Simple to use, elegant, looks nice, and gets readers to what they want, which is like, how do I either like get on your mailing list to get that freebie, or where do I find, or how can I like buy your books directly from you, or how can I, what are the retailers where that book is available? So Storage creates like makes that process very seamless. So there's the website builder. There's also like the review copies, which I mentioned briefly before. Readers request a review copy, and then they'll say where they plan to review, so like Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub, etc. And then they'll also leave the links to their reviewer profiles from those platforms, so that when you get that request, you can say, oh, "Okay, this person has." If I go to their reviewer profile on Goodreads and I see they've only ever reviewed, you know, uh, cozy romance novels, and I wrote a steamy romance novel, I might not want to accept them for my review team for my steamy romance novel because they might feel like they should leave a review for something that they're not going to necessarily enjoy, right? And so being able to access like their review profiles and see what else they've reviewed can be quite valuable, because then you'll know whether or not your book is something they might actually enjoy. And then Story Origin with that review copies feature as well gives you the number of review copies that they've been approved for through Story Origin before, and then how many of those they've actually completed. So if I see, hey, this person has been approved for 20 review copies through Story Origin, they've completed 19 of them, I can be relatively confident if I approve them for my review copy, they're actually going to finish it. Versus if I see someone has completed 2 out of 20, I might be like, I'm not going to give this person access to my review copy because I don't think they're actually going to finish it. And so yeah, so being able to like vet your reviewers when they're requesting access to your review copies can be quite beneficial. And then StoryOrigin also sends them automated follow-up emails so that you don't have to send those emails where you're like, hey, you remember that book I sent you like a couple weeks ago? StoryOrigin handles that for you so you don't have to send those awkward emails. And so yeah, there's the review copies feature, and then StoryOrigin has a bunch of other stuff, goal trackers and sort of link in bio collection pages and book series pages and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, while we still have a little bit of time left, I'd love to just open it up for questions and let people ask in the chat anything related to Story Origin or just a book marketing question in general. Let's see if we can get to some of those as quickly as we can here while we still got a few minutes. You see that one, Evan?
Yeah. So someone says, do I have to give away a different reader magnet each time I run a group promotion? How many reader magnets should I have? So no, you don't have to give away a different reader magnet every time you join a group promotion. Lots of authors, they have one reader magnet on StoryOrigin and they'll join a group promotion every single month and they will put that book in a group promotion and they'll just be promoting those group promos with just that one reader magnet. Now, I generally recommend when you have the time and availability to create more reader magnets, that is a good thing to do. But again, that's a recommendation, not meant to be a roadblock. So if you have just one reader magnet that you use and you use that for a year, use that for a year and a half, like that's totally fine. That's great. Like shouldn't be a problem. After some amount of time, though, you will see that reader magnet becomes less effective, just because the readers who have seen it and either chosen to sign up to your mailing list or they've seen it and they've chosen not to sign up to your mailing list. And so they're not, if they see it, if they see that one pop up again, they're probably going to make the same decision at that point. And so I generally recommend having multiple reader magnets because then you never know exactly what's going to tickle someone's fancy, right? Like, uh, so, you know, your anthology of short stories might actually be what gets that person onto your mailing list versus the prequel to your book or series versus maybe like you have a side story about another character in the same universe. Maybe that's a different reader magnet, right? And so you just have all these various sort of things out there that you never know whether which one a reader is going to like, and so having more just sort of casts a wider net. Now I do generally recommend that they all be in the like same genre that you write in, right? So like if you write cozy romance, don't put a reader magnet out there which is steamy romance, right? Or if you write sci-fi, make sure your reader magnets are sci-fi and not like a Western cowboy novel, right? So generally make sure that the readers that you get onto your mailing list are going to be, potential buyers for your other books or series that you have on for sale.
Lainey asked earlier, she said she has a list of people over on Reverb Nation with 600 fans. She's wondering if she can bring that list over to her MailChimp and promote her upcoming sci-fi novel. And she says, does this sound like a reasonable approach slash expectation? You have any thoughts about that?
I would probably start from scratch. I would say if you want to promote to another audience that you've built it up from somewhere else, don't add them to a mailing list that they have not like opted into or that they weren't like getting uh being aware they were being signed up for, right? Um, it's just better to start fresh. And then if you when you have a mailing list, like if you've built up a fan base on Facebook under some other brand or like in a sort of a different category, on that Facebook page, you could promote, hey, I also have a free book. If you guys want to come check it out, join my mailing list and add them to your mailing list when they request that reader magnet. But I would say don't take people that you've collected their emails from somewhere else for some other purpose and put them on a new mailing list, which is for something completely different because like you'll generally like you might make people upset that way, and it's generally just best to just start fresh.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
might get a
yeah,
lot of spam flagged and stuff like that
exactly,
for pushing something that they didn't sign up for. So I agree with that.
exactly. Yep.
We have a question here. Do you have a review category specifically for health and wellness?
So the way that StoryOrigin works is StoryOrigin works based on tags. So you can combine tags like um you can combine tags like the use the nonfiction tag and the business tag to find other authors that are in the specifically nonfiction business category on StoryOrigin, right? Um, so there are a ton of tags on StoryOrigin, and I uh, don't specifically monitor how many authors are in each, like use each tag. I spend the majority of my time trying to build new features and improve StoryOrigin, like from a technical perspective and features perspective. So I'm mostly just focused on making it the best product possible. And I don't actually look too closely at how many authors are in each category or using each tag or anything like that. The best thing to do would be to sign up to StoryOrigin. You can create an account for free. And then you can go to on your dashboard homepage. You can hit browse group promos and or you can hit browse newsletter swaps. And I would just start using those tags to find other authors and see if there are other authors that you want to cross promote with on StoryOrigin. And then uh, we haven't gotten into this, but if you want to join group promos, arrange newsletter swaps, put up reader magnets, review copies, beta copies, build your author website, do all that stuff. StoryOrigin has a paid plan for that stuff. So the free plan comes with some stuff, like the universal book links. Those are on the free plan. You can create those. You never have to pay for StoryOrigin. That's totally fine. But if you want to do like reader magnets and newsletter swaps and group promos, you do need to be on the paid plan of StoryOrigin, which is $10 a month. So if you create a free account, you can search all the other authors on StoryOrigin, see if there are cross promotions that you would want to do on StoryOrigin, and if there are, then you can sign up for the paid plan and start requesting those newsletter swaps or joining group promos, etc.
All right, we got the big question here. What is the difference between Story Origin and Book Funnel?
So there's definitely a lot of overlap. Both you can do group promos and put up reader magnets and stuff like that. Some of the features that are unique to StoryOrigin, like for example, the beta copies feature that I talked about, completely unique to StoryOrigin. The review copies feature, the way that that works on StoryOrigin, being able to vet the reviewers and automated follow up and all of that stuff, that is pretty unique to StoryOrigin. The StoryOrigin's website builder stuff with like link collections and book series pages and being able to put that all onto a single uh, being able to sort of build your website, that's pretty unique to StoryOrigin as well. And then just the way the various features work on StoryOrigin, it's also just a matter of like how you work sort of from an organizational perspective. Like a lot of times authors will jive more with StoryOrigin because it's laid out in a way that just works with their brains better. But then I will also say is like StoryOrigin, when I set out to build StoryOrigin, I went and I talked to a bunch of authors. So I used to write short stories back in high school, and then in college I got interested in tech and entrepreneurship. I worked for a few years, and then I wanted to get back into writing and then build tools for authors at the same time. So I went and I talked to a bunch of authors and asked them like, "Hey, what's your advice for me?" And they said, "Well, join this service to build your mailing list, join this other service to find reviewers, create, universal book links on this other service, go to Facebook and use, Google Forms for arranging newsletter swaps." And they gave me like, here's 8 different services and 5 different spreadsheets. And I was like, oh, okay. I see a problem here. It's like you're doing all of this context switching. And so what I did is I set out to build sort of a one-stop shop for doing all that stuff. And so StoryOrigin sort of overlaps with a lot of other services in the space, right? Like there's probably there's 2 other services that you could use for putting up reader magazines. There's 2 other services that you could use, for building a review team. There's at least 2 other services that you can use for creating universal book links. There's at least 2 other services that you can do for, each one of these features on StoryOrigin, right? And so StoryOrigin is sort of just a one-stop shop for everything. But a lot of authors will use both StoryOrigin and those other services for their specific features because they're looking to just, get as, uh, juice their books just as much as possible, right? So, for example, if I'm trying to get reviews, like I might put my book up for review on several different review platforms, right? Not just one, because I'm trying to get as many reviews as possible. And if everything is relatively affordable, like if Story Origin is $10 a month, that's a relatively affordable thing. I can do that too, right? So a lot of authors will use both. Um, so yeah, if you're happy with if you're happy with one, that's great. A lot of authors will use both. That's great as well. Like I always recommend authors just look at the ROI of a specific service, right? Like, as long as it is providing you more than you are putting into it, then you should use that service, right? As long as you're getting a good ROI on it. So if you get a good ROI and you use both services and they both give you a good ROI, then you should continue to use both.
Yeah, it seems like kind of a no-brainer to use Story Origin if you don't already have a pretty big fan base built, you're starting out, or you're just struggling to make any kind of traction whatsoever, to tap into a network that already exists and start joining group promos and newsletter swaps and have all these features to get reviews and things that you don't have access to otherwise. It's pretty easy to get your money's worth
Yeah,
out of Story Origin,
definitely.
like that. So, does anybody have any other questions that you can ask Evan before we go? How quickly can I grow my list if I currently have 0 subscribers?
That is going to be entirely dependent upon just how active you are. It's going to depend on how many newsletter swaps are you arranging every month, how many group promos are you joining every month? Are you sending your newsletter twice a month? Are you sending your newsletter once a month? Are you sending your newsletter once every 2 months? Right? Because that's going to affect how many cross promotions that you can do without sort of overloading your list, right? So I can't, and then it's also going to depend upon like what genre you're in, because like I said earlier, I recommend going to StoryOrigin and looking at the list of authors that the list of group promos and the other authors that are arranging newsletter swaps, and see how many other authors there are in your genre, because some genres are going to be bigger than others, right? And so some you might be able to grow a little bit faster in if there's a lot of authors with really, really big mailing lists. Some others they might be a little bit smaller, right? And so it just is a little bit slower growth. But I've seen lots of authors who have gone from 0 to 1,000 within the matter of a couple of months. But again, like I can't say that's going to be everyone's experience because it's all dependent upon like again how many cross promotions you're doing, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I would say don't get too worried about the size of your list. The main thing is that the people on your list are quality subscribers. 1 million subscribers that just joined because you gave away a free Kindle or something, they don't mean anything. I'd take 1,000 hardcore raving fans on an email list over 1 million that were just sort of acquired with cat memes or something over on Facebook. You would be really surprised how much mileage you can get out of a small email list if you build it specifically targeting the right people, which is lovers of books, readers of your genre, and people who maybe you've even read a whole book of yours and now they're going back to your email list to join to get a prequel or something like that, whatever you have as a reader magnet. Those people are extremely, extremely valuable, and you don't need 100,000 on your email list. Even just having 100, you already have a huge advantage over people with 0. I mean,
Yeah.
huge. Just getting 10 sales when you launch and maybe 5 to 10 extra reviews is so much better than 0. Logarithmically, exponentially greater results with that compared to 0. So, like Evan said, today's the day to start. You want to get that going as quickly as possible, and I think Evan, you've provided like some really great tangible ideas for how to build an email list, how to use Story Origin to do that, which is all geared up to do that effectively, without driving yourself crazy and needing to spend $7,000 on an email or on a website like I did back in 2008. That still
Yeah.
hurts. That still hurts. I'm still upset about that. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on. Emily, let's see. How do I find out? Sorry, my eyes are terrible. Who has been reading my books on Amazon KDP? Is there any way to do that?
Not from StoryOrigin. No, StoryOrigin doesn't have any sort of like analytics around your like sales of your books on retailers. No, yeah, StoryOrigin doesn't have access to that information.
Yeah, being able to the ultimate game changer would be if KDP allowed you to directly communicate with the people who purchase your books, which they don't do that.
Right.
So that hurts. I wish they allowed you to do that. That would make life a lot easier.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Cool. What should people do to get started with Story Origin, find out more about you, learn more? Is the learning curve pretty steep to figure out how to start using this? What next? What should people do after listening to this?
Yeah, so go to storyoriginApp.com. I would just hit that sign up button on the top right corner, log in and sign up. And then from there, you'll get a series of welcome sequence emails from me for my mailing list, which will tell you, here's sort of what I recommend, where you start, and all that stuff. As well, if you go to storyoriginApp.com and you hit there's a tutorials button in the top nav bar as well. There's a list of in-depth written guides and case studies with authors and video tutorials that I would recommend checking out. In particular, if you're interested in starting to build your mailing list, there's in-depth guide on that tutorials tab on storage, and that says 0 to 1,000 subscribers, like how to build your mailing list. Um, that one will go over a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, and it'll really get into the weeds of like, how here's what you need to do to, go sign up to an email service provider like MailChimp or MailerLite or Email Octopus or what have you. And then, go do these other things, and has all of those recommendations for you. And then on storage and on your dashboard as well, you'll find three text boxes on your dashboard homepage. One will say build your mailing list, then another will say two, increase sale, or two, find reviewers, three, increase sales. And if you click on one of those text boxes, it'll just give you a checklist of like, go here, do this, go here, do that, go here, do that. So if you go to storyoriginApp.com, you'll find all the information there. And if you have any other questions, you can also find my email address on the bottom of the homepage. Or if you hit the contact link on StoryOrigin, you'll see my name, you'll see my face, you'll see my email address. It's evan@storyoriginApp.com. My inbox is always open. Anyone is welcome to send me an email.
Yeah, which is what I did, and he replied, and here we are.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. And any more questions before we sign off, guys? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I really appreciate it, Evan, and really great what you've created and all the passion that you bring to it. I can tell you're still, this is your baby. You're still really focused on it and, really believe in it and are here to help.
For
And
sure.
there's a lot of people in our community that are not here to help. They're here to, and, I don't know if you heard about the recent drama with publishing.com.
No.
$1.5 million lawsuit. Their site was shut down. Crazy
Whoa.
drama, right? Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of sharks out there, and I
Yeah.
can tell you're not one of those people, and you really are. You know what's going to help people the most, and you're trying to provide that in the most efficient manner with all the support required to help them actually implement it and make it work for them. So I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope everybody got a lot of use out of this presentation.
Yeah, sure thing. And like I said, anyone's always welcome to reach out to me. And thanks again for having me on.
All right. Thank you, guys. Now, if I can figure out how to end this, that's the key.
The bottom right. that says leave or end all for you.
You know, you know what happened is I
The
moved
video
my
window.
window down and that wasn't
Ah,
visible anymore. I got it now. So long,
all right.
everybody. This is goodbye for real this time. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.